Be very still for a moment. Do not rush these words. What I am about to tell you is not meant for noise or panic, and it is not meant for everyone. It comes quietly, like a shadow passing over water, like a feeling you cannot explain but cannot ignore. Something has been shifting for a long time now, slowly, almost politely, so that most people would not notice. But you noticed. You felt it in your chest on nights when the world felt heavy without a clear reason. You sensed it in the way news began to sound the same everywhere, as if many voices were repeating one thought. You wondered why peace feels thinner than it used to. That is why I am here, speaking to you directly. I am not coming to frighten you. Fear is already loud enough in the world. I am coming because truth whispered at the right time can protect a heart from being crushed later. You must understand this first: what is coming is not sudden. It is not a surprise attack from nowhere. It is the result of many small choices, many ignored warnings, many wounds left untreated. War does not begin with weapons. It begins with hardened hearts. And right now, many hearts across the world have become tired, proud, and afraid all at once. You have seen it without realizing you were seeing it. Nations speaking in sharper tones. Leaders choosing power over listening. People dividing themselves into sides so quickly that they forget they are all human. Pain is being passed like a torch instead of being healed. Old anger is being taught to new generations as if it were wisdom. This is how the ground is prepared. This is how the world moves closer, step by step, toward something it claims it does not want. I want you to know something important. Even now, nothing is fixed beyond change. The future is not a single straight line carved in stone. But the direction matters. And the direction the world is facing right now is dangerous. Not because people are evil, but because too many are wounded and refuse to stop and tend to those wounds. They keep walking forward, bleeding, and every step leaves a mark that others trip over. You may ask why I am telling you this, when you are just one soul living one life, trying to survive your own struggles. Listen carefully. The smallest lights are often placed closest to the darkest paths. You are not responsible for saving the world, but you are responsible for not letting the world turn you into something you are not. When fear spreads, it tries to recruit every heart it touches. It wants you angry, numb, hopeless, or cruel. That is how war wins before it even begins. What is coming, if things continue as they are, will test humanity deeply. It will not only be about land or power. It will be about identity, belief, control, and pride. People will say they are fighting for safety while feeding their fear. They will say they want peace while preparing for destruction. Many will not see the contradiction, because fear makes the mind simple and loud. I know this is heavy. That is why I am asking you to breathe as you read this. Do not carry it like a burden. Carry it like a candle. A candle does not fight the dark. It simply exists, and the dark has no choice but to step back a little. The pressure you feel pressing in on the world is not imagined. It is the collective breath of humanity tightening, the silent tension stretching between hearts that have forgotten to rest in one another. You sense it in the rising prices, in the way a conversation that once felt simple now carries hidden edges. You hear it in words carelessly thrown like stones, in laughter that sounds slightly hollow, in the way even silence itself trembles as if unsure whether to bring peace or foretell collapse. None of this unfolds at random. When the body is unwell, its pain becomes language, the fever, the tremor, the pulse that races. The earth, too, is a living body, and humanity is one heartbeat within it. The signs you witness are not punishments but messages, a call to listen before the shaking grows stronger. Do not mistake the trembling for the end. Collapse is not certain, though neglect hastens decay. What is unfolding now is both warning and invitation. Every system of the world reveals its weakness before it breaks, not to terrify you, but to remind you that repair is still possible. Before any great storm, the air becomes heavy, the trees, the animals, even the wind pause in an awareness that cannot be spoken. Humanity is in that pause now. The stillness is filled with anxiety because many do not yet understand that tension can also precede renewal. What you see outside, the political arguments, the division, the noise, is a reflection of what lives inside human hearts. War begins long before the first weapon is drawn. It begins when listening ceases, when understanding becomes a chore, when pride refuses to yield even a quiet breath. When people forget how to tend their own inner peace, they begin to project their storms outward. And so, the planet now mirrors each restless soul like a sea reflecting the sky. That is why your peace matters more than you realize. It is not a luxury, it is participation in the healing of the collective. Every time you choose calm over conflict, awareness over reaction, you loosen one thread that might have been used to weave destruction. You will hear many voices in the days and years ahead, voices claiming to know what is coming, shouting of timelines and disasters, flooding the air with predictions that seem certain but are rooted more in fear than in truth. Fear craves definition. It wants events to cling to so it can measure its own survival. But love does not need calendars, love lives in the eternal present. It prepares the heart, not for a specific date, but for every possible moment. That is the readiness being asked of you, not the hoarding of supplies or the memorizing of prophecies, but the strengthening of your inner stillness so that when noise rises, you are not swept away by it. Do not let fear make a home in your thoughts. Worry spends the strength you will one day need. It is a thief disguised as caution. Yes, prepare practically, be wise about your needs, about community, about safety, but let your preparation be rooted in clarity, not panic. Build structure, yes, but build it with calm hands. Walls can protect or imprison depending on the heart that builds them. Choose resilience over retreat. Choose awareness over isolation. Stay informed, yet free from obsession. It is one thing to care, it is another to drown beneath the weight of global sorrow. Remember, it was never your duty to carry the whole world upon your back. Your task is to keep your corner of it luminous. Care where you can touch, give where it matters, listen where silence has grown heavy. Love, as foolish as it may appear, is the rarest form of intelligence in times of decline. When the world inches closer to violence, simple kindness becomes rebellion of the highest order. Compassion, in such moments, is not weakness, it is defiance against despair. The truth will often be attacked, distorted, ridiculed. But truth does not panic. It waits. It never demands belief, it simply endures until eyes are ready to see it again. Protect truth in your speech, your choices, and your heart. Let it be the quiet armor beneath your gentleness. You may wonder if everything is heading toward collapse, if the systems that govern your days will shatter beyond repair. Yet history whispers otherwise. Not every storm consumes the world. Even in times of great suffering, light manages to find its cracks, soft hands feed the hungry, small prayers rise like lanterns, and compassion weaves invisible threads that prevent total ruin. You, too, are part of that quiet weave. You are an anchor disguised as an ordinary soul. Do not underestimate what your steadiness creates. There will come moments that feel surreal, when headlines blur into horror and disbelief rises like smoke. You will ask how humanity, with all its knowledge, could still fall back into such primitive chaos. Ask the question, but do not drown in it. Let the question refine you. Let it become the fuel for awakening. Despair is easy, resolve is sacred. Resolve to remain human when cruelty masquerades as strength. Resolve to speak softly, even when the world demands shouting. Resolve to protect life in whatever shape it takes around you, be it a friend's dignity, an animal's safety, a child's hope, or your own tender heart. Powerlessness is an illusion crafted by fear. Influence does not always roar, sometimes it breathes quietly in the small choice not to spread panic. When everyone reacts, the one who pauses shifts the whole pattern. Stillness is not weakness, it is leadership of the soul. The world has enough noise, you are needed for your silence, the kind that heals rather than hides. Do not be surprised if connections break, if certain people distance themselves as your inner calm grows. Light unsettles those still devoted to shadow. Yet resist the temptation to judge them. Compassion does not discriminate. Offer your steadiness without superiority. Many will awaken when the turbulence grows unbearable, and they will search for examples of grounded hearts. Even your smallest act of grace will serve as a map for someone lost. Yes, prepare. Store what you need. Maintain wisdom. But remember that true preparation is spiritual. A stocked home is of little use to an empty soul. Balance both worlds, the visible and the invisible. Tend to your shelter, but also to your character. Maintain clarity so you can discern between genuine warnings and manufactured fear designed to enslave the mind. Confusion is another battlefield, and your awareness is the armor. Do not confuse numbness with strength. Many will grow hard and call it wisdom, but a hardened heart cannot feel truth. The soul that refuses to soften cannot discern the sacred. Protect your tenderness, it is not naive, it is holy. The world will tempt you to choose bitterness to survive. But those who stay gentle in times of chaos are the ones who become living sanctuaries for others. You will be told to choose a side, to divide yourself by labels, to prove loyalty through hatred. Resist that call. Every false division drains collective energy and strengthens the machinery of destruction. Choosing peace does not mean indifference, it means aligning with a higher purpose that transcends factions. There is a strength greater than the sword, it is the heart disciplined enough to love without condition. Light does not argue with darkness, it simply shines until sight returns to those who forgot how to see. Become that light. Quiet, steady, unprovoked by rage, unshaken by cynicism. You will not always be understood. Some will mock peace as passivity. Let them. The fruits of rage are ashes, the fruits of peace are generations that remember how to live. You may doubt yourself at times, wondering if your calm matters at all against waves so vast. Yet every tide begins with a single pull of the moon upon the water. Your peace resonates farther than you can perceive. The ripple of one centered soul can steady thousands. Energy is not confined to physical space. Consciousness responds to frequency, and love is the highest frequency there is. The more of it you hold, the more you influence, silently, invisibly, divinely. When fatigue comes, and it will, allow rest, not resignation. Rest is not escape, it is sacred recalibration. Even heaven pauses. Silence is not failure, it is renewal. In moments when your spirit feels stretched, return to breath, to nature, to still waters. The earth will remind you how balance sustains itself. Even winter, though it appears barren, is quietly at work preparing for spring. Trust that cycles exist for healing as well as loss. And remember, not every place burns, not every heart turns cruel, not every prayer goes unanswered. Even in times of great war, love circulates in hidden ways, through nurses caring for the wounded, through mothers whispering lullabies in the dark, through strangers reaching for one another when fear says to pull away. The world is never entirely lost. There are always pockets of grace where light lingers, where kindness holds the line quietly against the rising storm. You may be one of those pockets. When the noise grows deafening, when the arguments overwhelm, step back into simplicity. Walk where trees grow. Touch the ground. Look at the stars that existed long before human conflict. They remind you that eternity remains untouched by temporary madness. The span of history is filled with seasons of turmoil, but every one of them passed, leaving behind souls who learned deeper love through struggle. You are part of that continuation. Do not let the surrounding tension steal your wonder. Continue to find beauty, even in small places. Wonder is not denial, it is resistance to despair. It keeps you alive to the sacredness still moving beneath the chaos. In the midst of headlines that scream division, markets that tremble, and voices that grow hoarse with anger, the quiet act of noticing a single dew-covered leaf or the soft curve of a child's sleeping cheek becomes a deliberate rebellion. Wonder reclaims territory that fear would claim as its own. It reminds you that the universe has not forgotten how to surprise you with grace, even when human systems appear intent on forgetting it entirely. When you drink water, pause for a moment longer than usual. Know that you are sharing an ancient stream that has cycled through countless generations. The same molecules that now slide down your throat once nourished the roots of cedars that stood before empires rose, once flowed through the veins of poets who wrote of love in forgotten languages, once quenched the thirst of travelers crossing deserts under unfamiliar stars. This water has wept as rain, rested as snow, roared as river, and rested again in deep underground silence. It has known no borders, no politics, no ownership. In each swallow you participate in an unbroken ceremony of continuity. You join hands, across time, across species, across the living and the long-departed, with every being that has ever bent to drink. That simple, ordinary act is therefore anything but ordinary. It is a quiet affirmation that life persists, that the elemental forces of the planet continue their patient, generous work regardless of what headlines declare to be the end. When you light a candle, especially on evenings when the news feels heavier than the darkness outside your window, know that you join a lineage of souls who have used flame to remember faith in darkness. The first humans who cupped their hands around a fragile spark understood this instinctively. They were not merely warming their bodies, they were declaring that something within them refused to surrender tonight. Every candle since has carried that same declaration forward. The wick you touch today echoes the oil lamps of ancient temples, the beeswax tapers of medieval monasteries, the tiny flames kindled in attics where people hid from persecution, the birthday candles blown out with whispered wishes that still linger in the ether. Flame is memory made visible. It is also forgiveness made visible, forgiving the dark for being dark, forgiving the world for its broken places, forgiving yourself for the moments you forgot how to hope. These are not small gestures. They are acts of alignment with eternity, small doors through which the timeless steps quietly into time. As the world changes, and it is changing with a speed and depth that can make the heart stutter, you will see old systems crumble. You will witness old truths questioned, old idols fall. Let them. Do not clutch at the falling masonry out of habit or fear of emptiness. Destruction often precedes revelation. The forest must burn for certain seeds to open. The snake must shed its skin or die confined within it. Many things humanity trusted for generations were never built on love in the first place. They were constructed on domination, on extraction, on the illusion of separation. Their collapse is not tragedy but cleansing, a necessary unraveling of threads that were always pulling the wrong way. The pain of watching familiar structures dissolve is real, yet it is also the pain of birth. What rises next will depend not on the cleverness of new blueprints or the volume of new manifestos, but on what hearts choose in moments of uncertainty. This is the turning point, whether humanity rebuilds in wisdom or repeats its forgetting. Your awareness, your quiet refusal to numb yourself, your willingness to feel the grief without letting it become cynicism, these contribute to that choice more than any vote, any protest, any platform ever could. Do not lose your softness. It may ache. It may feel dangerously vulnerable in a time that seems to reward armor above all else. Yet that very softness is your link to the divine. The soul that stays feeling, that refuses to calcify into bitterness or indifference, stays alive to grace. When empathy hurts, and it will, because to truly see another's suffering is to carry a portion of it, remember that pain is evidence of care, and care is evidence of spirit. The ones who cannot feel, who have trained themselves to shut down in the name of efficiency or self-protection, may survive the immediate storm. They may even thrive for a season. But the ones who continue to feel, who allow their hearts to remain tender even when it costs them sleep, are the bridge between worlds. They are the quiet protectors of all that makes life holy, the hesitant smile of someone who has forgotten how to hope, the trembling hand that still reaches out, the unspoken forgiveness offered when revenge would be easier. Your softness is not weakness. It is the last line of defense. For everything sacred. If fear visits you in the night, and it will come, wearing different faces, whispering different lies, speak gently to it. Do not shout it away or pretend it does not exist. Say instead, "You are not my master. You are only a shadow of my love's concern." Shadows can only exist where light is present, they have no substance of their own. Do not banish your fear, illuminate it. Look at it directly, name its shape, trace its origin. Understanding dissolves what resistance amplifies. The moment you cease fighting the fear and begin to companion it with curiosity and compassion, its power begins to leak away. It becomes a teacher instead of a tyrant, pointing you toward the places where love has not yet been fully invited in. In the unseen realm, countless beings of light work ceaselessly to guide, comfort, and protect. You may never see them in recognizable form, yet you feel their presence in countless subtle ways, the sudden warmth that spreads across your chest for no apparent reason, the intuition that arrives like a soft bell in the middle of confusion, the peace that descends unexpectedly when everything around you insists there is no peace to be found. They do not interfere with your free will, they honor it too deeply for that. Instead, they strengthen your remembrance that you are never alone. When you pause instead of panic, you align with that guidance. When you choose understanding over outrage, when you listen more than you speak, when you allow silence to do its slow, healing work, you make space for divine intelligence to operate through you. This is how heaven works, silently, patiently, persistently, within human hearts. Not with trumpets and fanfare, but with the steady drip of kindness, the gentle pressure of inspiration, the quiet insistence that love is still the strongest force in existence, even when chaos peaks, and there will be days when it feels as though the whole world is screaming, pulling at your attention from every direction, demanding urgency, outrage, allegiance, reaction. Know this gently and without panic: this is not the end of the story. It never has been. What you are witnessing is not a final collapse but a passage, loud and frightening, yes, but still a passage. History has always moved this way, in waves rather than straight lines. Every prophecy whispered by ancient voices, every great cycle remembered in sacred texts and indigenous wisdom traditions, carries both a warning and a promise intertwined so tightly they cannot be separated. The warning says, things will shake. The promise answers, but they will not remain broken forever. The shaking is real. The confusion is real. The grief, the anger, the fear that seem to rise like smoke from every corner of the world, these are real. But they are not ultimate. They are symptoms of a deeper movement, one that clears space even as it terrifies. After great shaking comes awakening, not as a reward for good behavior, not as a prize earned by endurance, but as a natural response, the way lungs gasp for air after being held too long under water. After the longest darkness, dawn arrives, not because humanity suddenly deserves it, but because it is the nature of light to return. Night does not defeat the sun by lasting many hours. Winter does not cancel spring by freezing the ground. These are not moral victories, they are rhythms older than opinion and stronger than despair. You are living inside one of those rhythms now, even if it feels disorienting to be carried by something you cannot see or control. You cannot control the pace of the world. This truth may ache at first, especially if you are someone who cares deeply, who feels responsible, who wants to protect, to fix, to prevent suffering before it multiplies. You cannot dictate when the storm will pass or how fierce its winds will become. You cannot reason with the ocean while it is in the middle of a tide. But you can choose your posture toward it. This choice is quieter than control, less dramatic than resistance, yet infinitely more powerful. Bend like grass in the wind. Grass survives hurricanes not because it is stronger than the storm, but because it does not challenge it head-on. The rigid tree, proud of its height and hardness, often breaks. The supple stalk bows, flattens, waits, and then rises again when the pressure passes. Flexibility is not weakness. It is not compromise of your values or surrender of your soul. It is wisdom dressed in humility, intelligence that understands timing, strength that knows when to yield so it can endure. As you walk through the coming years, keep your spiritual senses open, not strained, not hypervigilant, but gently attentive, like listening for a familiar voice in a crowded room. Times like these are not merely difficult, they are revelatory. They peel away the superficial layers of identity you once thought were essential. Titles, roles, expectations, plans, even certain beliefs about yourself begin to loosen and fall away, one by one, until what remains is closer to the bone of who you truly are. This process can feel like loss. It can feel like being exposed, stripped of protection. But it is also an invitation into honesty, the kind that cannot be faked or performed. You will meet yourself more deeply than ever before. Not in moments of triumph or clarity, but in the quiet spaces that follow disappointment. In the silences between thoughts, when you realize how much noise you once used to avoid listening. In the tears you no longer hide, not even from yourself, because you are too tired of pretending that strength means dryness. In the moments you choose gentleness when everything in you wants to harden, to armor up, to become sharp so nothing can touch you again. These moments will not announce themselves as spiritual milestones. They will look ordinary. They will feel small. But they are thresholds. You will discover whether your peace was conditional, tethered to circumstances going your way, or rooted in something deeper, something that does not rise and fall with headlines, economies, or the opinions of strangers. You will see whether your calm depended on comfort, or whether it can survive discomfort without dissolving into bitterness. This discovery may humble you. It may surprise you. It may even disappoint you at first. But it will also free you, because what is revealed can finally be tended. The world's instability will strip away illusions the way winter strips the trees. Leaves fall not because the tree has failed, but because it is conserving life for what comes next. In their bare branches, trees look exposed, vulnerable, even lifeless to the untrained eye. And yet, there is a stark, quiet beauty in their nakedness. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is pretending. What remains is structure, essence, truth. So it is with you. When everything superficial is gone, when approval, certainty, and easy narratives have been taken away, what remains is what cannot be destroyed. Your capacity to care. Your ability to choose kindness without applause. Your willingness to stay awake rather than numb. That is the gift disguised as crisis. Let your daily life become your prayer. Not the polished kind, not the kind that requires special language or dramatic gestures, but the lived kind, woven into ordinary moments. You do not need to retreat to mountaintops or abandon your responsibilities to be spiritually alive. Every meal you share becomes sacred when you truly taste the food and acknowledge the invisible chain of effort, soil, labor, and care that brought it to your plate. Eating slowly, gratefully, is an act of reverence in a world that consumes without noticing. Every word you choose carefully becomes a prayer when you speak it with the intention to heal rather than wound. You may not always succeed. You will sometimes speak too quickly, too sharply. When you do, let awareness follow without self-punishment. Correction born of compassion lasts longer than shame ever could. Every act of forgiveness, even the small, private ones no one else witnesses, the ones where you release a resentment silently, or decide not to replay an old hurt one more time, sends ripples across existence. You cannot see how far they travel, but that does not mean they stop with you. Every time you resist the impulse to argue just to feel superior, to prove yourself right at the cost of connection, to win at someone else's expense, you create space. And space is where something kinder can enter. In that pause, another possibility breathes. The unseen watches closely, not in judgment, not with a checklist of failures, but in wonder, learning from you what humanity is still capable of becoming when fear does not have the final word. Shine authentically, even if trembling. Especially if trembling. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision not to let fear dictate your values. Heaven, however you understand it, does not demand perfection. It does not require you to be consistent, unbroken, or endlessly confident. It asks only for presence. Show up as you are, with your contradictions, your fatigue, your unanswered questions, and your tender places still healing. Bring your whole self, not the edited version you think is more acceptable. That honesty is enough. More than enough. Hold this message quietly. You do not need to announce it from rooftops or defend it in endless debates. Truth works best when lived, not shouted. Noise often seeks validation, truth simply expresses itself through action. Let this understanding rest where your soul recognizes it beyond words, in the soft place behind your heart, in the stillness between breaths, in the moments when you choose restraint over reaction. The closer the world edges toward conflict, the more valuable calm hearts like yours become. Calm is not indifference. It is a stabilizing force, a refusal to amplify chaos. A single candle does not dispel all darkness. It does not pretend to. But it refuses to be swallowed by it. And that refusal matters. That gentle persistence of light, quiet, steady, unassuming, is what keeps hope alive in the human story. Not grand gestures alone, but countless small lights refusing to go out at the same time. So breathe deeply, even when the air feels thick with uncertainty. Let your breath remind your body that you are here, now, alive, supported by gravity and ground. Walk slowly when you can, letting your feet remember the earth beneath them, reminding yourself that you belong to something older and steadier than the current moment. Speak truthfully, not cruelly, allowing honesty to be your protection rather than your weapon. Truth does not need sharp edges to be effective, clarity is strength enough. Love freely, not because the world has earned it, not because it is always reciprocated, but because love is what you are made of. Withholding it out of fear only punishes you, shrinking your own capacity in an attempt to avoid pain. Love does not mean allowing harm or abandoning boundaries. It means refusing to let bitterness become your identity. It means choosing not to poison yourself in an effort to make someone else feel your pain. For the world may indeed move toward war, toward fracture, toward forgetting. Systems may fail. Narratives may collapse. Familiar structures may dissolve. But you can move toward peace in the midst of it, carrying seeds of restoration hidden within your every choice. You may never know whose life you touch by staying soft where others grow cruel, by listening where others shout, by refusing to dehumanize even when it would be easier to do so. And when others begin to wonder where to find hope, when they are exhausted by outrage, disillusioned by promises that did not hold, they will not need to search far. They will feel it in your calm, which does not demand attention. They will hear it in your silence, which speaks louder than arguments. They will see it shining quietly through your eyes, not as certainty about the future, but as trust in something deeper than outcomes. This is not escapism. It is the deepest form of engagement available. To remain tender, awake, and loving in the face of chaos is not passive, it is radical. It requires strength that does not depend on dominance. It requires courage that does not need enemies to define itself. It is the refusal to let the worst expressions of humanity become the final definition of what humanity can be. It is the insistence, often wordless, sometimes lonely, that beneath every fracture runs a thread of wholeness waiting to be remembered. That thread has not snapped, no matter how frayed it looks. And you, yes, you, in your ordinary days and quiet decisions, are one of the hands still weaving it. Not quickly. Not perfectly. But patiently. Stitch by patient stitch. Breath by steady breath. Choice by conscious choice. Keep going. Even when progress feels invisible. Even when the world seems louder than your small acts of care. The light you carry is needed more than ever. Not because it is loud, not because it claims certainty, but because it is steady. Because it refuses to abandon its softness even when hardness is rewarded. Because it remembers what the rest of the world may temporarily forget, that love, in the end, is the only thing that has ever truly lasted. And it is still here. Still moving through you. Still asking, gently and persistently, that you let it continue its quiet work, through your hands, your voice, your presence, one moment at a time.